You're live.
We're live. Hi, Mount Vernon. This is Mayor Sean Patterson Howard. We're getting ready to go live. We're here tonight to talk about violence in the community and how we can respond as a community. No one, Superman isn't coming to save us. So we as a community have to step up to the plate and become involved. We're asking right now that you take a moment to share, to please share this video, start a watch party. Let your friends know. Come on in and share this video. I'm going to take a moment now that we're live and I'm going to share it myself. But we have some incredible guests here with us tonight. We have Miss Teresa Hardy, and she is, that name stands by itself. No explanation needed, an incredible community activist. She's out here making a difference in the community. We also have here our Henry Terry, and he is the program manager for the Snug Mount Vernon team under Family Services of Westchester. Well, I mean, if I got that wrong, you're leading the team of Snug here in Mount Vernon, and we appreciate you, lifelong resident of Mount Vernon. And we also have Mr. Damon Bacote, and Mr. Bacote is the New York State Administrator for the Snug program. So he oversees all of the Snug programs in the state of New York, from the Canada line all the way down to Long Island. And so we are grateful to have him here with us. We may be getting a visit from Jesse Van Loo. He has some family commitments tonight, but hopefully he'll be able to jump on this live and join us for a little while. And who knows, we might even get Derek, our Councilman Thompson, to pop in, or Adria to pop in. But we're going to start this conversation now. And we're going to start it off with Henry Terry, because Henry, you are the head of the Snug program here in Mount Vernon, and we want you to kind of explain what Snug is. We want you to explain what a credible messenger is, and the role credible messengers play in Snug, as well as, I used the term yesterday, street general. And so if you could explain what a street general is, so that can help other people, because I think when I put the call out for street generals, the street generals knew who they were and they responded. Other people had a concern about the phrase, but those who are street generals know what a street general is. So we're going to start off with Mr. Henry Terry.
Well, good afternoon. I'm the supervisor of the Mount Vernon Snug unit. I supervise the street team. We're the ones that basically are the bootstraps on the ground for the team. We're the ones that's out in the community and in the trenches and mediating the beefs and the misunderstandings and the confrontations. And the reason that we're able to do that is because, like our mayor just said, is we're credible messengers. We're of our community. We're from our community. We've been known in our community for things that weren't of good nature. We were respected in our communities for things that weren't in good nature. And there are those of us who were respected in our communities because of our violent nature. And today, we live on the opposite side of the fence. One, because we don't want young men having to go through the different trials and tribulations that we went through coming up. We don't want young men to have to face the opposition of prison, of being away from their families, and potentially being in the graveyard by living the way that we used to live our lives. And we've made a turnaround in our life. One, because there was somebody that saw the potential in us to do other than what we were doing. We had the potential to be better than the things that we were involving ourselves in. And somebody took the time to reach out and say, listen, I see more in you. I want more for you. Therefore, it made us start looking at ourselves to say, I see more in me and I want more for me. And if I want more for me, I want more for my community. Why? Because I'm born and raised Mount Vernon, New York, from Toddlers Park all the way up to Mount Vernon High School, Robert Fulton Elementary School, Davis Middle School, Nichols Middle School. I am a true Mount Vernonite, born and raised. And I love my community because I grew up in my community and I grew up with my community. That's what makes me a credible messenger in my community. Now, the street generals are those that are in the streets, that have been in the streets, and who may still be in the streets, but they give guidance to the ones coming up. They give guidance to the ones coming up, and their word has value because their movements have value to those that are coming up in the same game or in the same situation that they're in. A street general is not going to encourage a young dude to do some nonsense or do something that's going to bring a lot of attention to him, or do something that's going to interrupt whatever their source of income might be. A street general is going to direct that young man to stay under the radar, move quietly, and move in a way where there's not a lot of observation on.
And we don't positive things.
We don't have too many street generals left in our streets today. And that's one of our problems.
Well, then recruit some.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I said, then let's figure out a way to recruit some.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons that the mayor wanted to put this platform together today. My biggest problem is everybody having input, but not putting nothing in. That's my biggest problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
You have so much to say about what's going on, but when you in the situation where you can prevent what's going on from going on, or you can be that voice to try to alter the movements of what might be happening, you stand silent. And if you're doing that, you're not doing nothing. And then want to have a conversation later on with other people that might be considered street generals or OGs in the hood. Nah, that ain't a conversation. The conversation should have been, yo, you know, I had to stop these young dudes over here from doing such and such, man. Yo, you know, I had to intervene or step in. They was about to do X, Y, Z, and I had to pull a coattail. Then you're doing something.
Yeah. Well, you and I both know, growing up in probably the worst parts of Mount Vernon in the 80s, you 3rd Avenue, me 4th Street.
The worst,
so, like,
but the safest.
Yeah, because we had OGs that looked out for us.
Exactly.
But every community has somebody they looked up to. So even though you could be a general, I mean, I like the idea of what your whole mission is, but then you got to understand that every community, there's always been 7th Avenue, you know what I'm saying? There's always been projects. There was always 3rd Street, which was different than 3rd Avenue. There was always 4th Street, that was different than 4th and Fulton. You know what I'm saying? Every neighborhood has somebody that, you know, kind of represented or they held up as that person in their neighborhood. Maybe you could start by figuring out who's the top guy over there. Like who's everybody respected. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's always known for who's who and who's, you know, that could be a better way. Instead of you trying to get an OG, get a new G, get a young G. Because you got to get somebody that the young kids respect. Like we could teach them and tell them all the things that we've been through, saw, achieved, accomplished. But like, you know, somebody that speak their language and is actually going through the things that they going through and they like kind of parallel with them. I mean, I think you need somebody to let you in the door. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got the resources. You need somebody to get you in the door. You know what I'm saying? I think that'd be the perfect way is going into those communities, go to Fulton Avenue and find out who's the guy down there that everybody, you know, look up to, or who's the main person in the Heights, who's the main person in the project, 7th Avenue, 13th Avenue, 15th Avenue. Just find it out, you know, because then we also got a culture barrier here. You know, we got the West Indian people, because I ain't gonna just name one part of the West Indies, but you know, we got a culture barrier, but we all are Blacks in America. You know what I'm saying? It's a very, I don't know, it's like when you say the word Mount Vernon, it's almost like a term of endearment. It's like because you love it so much, but then you just hate the things that's going on there. And it's like you said, a lot of people have so many suggestions and solutions, but like I think the main problem is Mount Vernon is everybody wants to be a chief and not an Indian. You know what I'm saying? And like, I don't mind being an Indian. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're trying to get something done as a community, let's do it. But people got to push their egos back and
That's right.
and let's just do it. You know what I'm saying? You could be the manager of it, but like, it's a possibility Malcolm comes up with a greater idea. Doesn't take away your title. It's just that we're gonna roll with what we agree Malcolm is doing. Same thing could go for Damon. Damon could come up with an idea. No, he doesn't run the program, but he has an awesome idea that because he doesn't have superiority over the agenda doesn't mean he shouldn't be, addressed or looked into or held into regards of it makes sense. And I think that be sometimes the problem in Mount Vernon is that if the person who's in charge doesn't come up with the solution, it's like they just kick all the balls back down like down the park, and it's like that. Then we back at square one. You know
And
what I'm saying?
that is a very accurate point, and that's why the part of the way our program is structured, like a lot of the resolution with the conflicts that we are able to mediate and we are able to get together and we are able to have sit down and sit across from each other, it comes from our inroads, right? And our inroads are those from those particular areas who do have the influence. You understand what I'm saying? Now, us having the relationship with those who do have the voice with any particular crew, set or block, what have you, those are the ones that we have the real ties to. And a lot of times, like just coming on set or being on scene or just being around at the right time, it allots us the opportunity to find out exactly what's going on and have, like you said, have the young G pull his man coattail and say, yo, listen, you need to go holler at them, or they're gonna bring homeboy over here and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna work this out. And that's how a lot of our mediations actually do come together. You understand what I'm saying? But like you said, sometimes when people bring their ego to the table, it's nothing gonna get resolved. You can't resolve anything with ego sitting on the middle of the table, right?
So
the ego has to be taken off the table first and foremost.
So one of the things I know is, people say all the time, the whole OG system doesn't work anymore. The young people aren't going to respect the older people. The bottom line is every community has a gatekeeper. Every community has people that someone respects, whether they're 15, whether they're 30, whether they're 50. And once you identify them, and sometimes that can be the kid who causes the most problems. Over the years, I've always, whenever I've gone in to do presentations, the one who's popping off at the mouth, that's the one who I'm going to engage first. And once I get them and I hook them, then I'm going to stand them up there and they're going to help present with me, and even at the Y and doing programs in the community, I always found out who was the quote unquote wolf, who was dominating the basketball court, who was running the fitness center, who was doing that. And those are the ones that I made sure that I engaged because I wanted to find out what made them tick. Because if you could sit there and pull them in and get them on your side, then you're going to pull the other ones and they're going to go, okay, this is for real. This is for real. And it's not that the young people won't listen to someone. Hey, Jesse, we see you're coming in. We can hear you. So hi, Jesse. There he is. You're sideways. Now you're straight up.
Yeah, I got you. How you doing?
So welcome. We're glad that you came in. So, one of the things that we have to do is we have to stop saying that our kids will not listen, because then that gives us an excuse. We have to say they're too hard to reach. We have to stop saying they're too hard to reach. The bottom line is you don't know unless you try. And that's what, so people make an excuse, oh, they're not going to listen to me, or they're not going to listen to anyone. They're not interested in what we have to say. They're very much interested, but they're going to give you a lot of pushback initially because they need to test you out. They need to see if you're real. They need to see if you're just coming in and going to pop up and make a show. A lot of these young people have been abandoned over and over and over again, whether it be by parents, whether it be teachers, whether it be people in the community who became frustrated, threw up their hands and walked away. And so they're going to oftentimes push back. I don't think there is a young person that I've met to this day that once I really kind of got locked and loaded and decided we were going to connect, that we did not connect, because they're looking for people to connect with them, but they're going to test you out. They're going to try you out. They're going to see if you're really about it and if you're really there for them, or if you're there for a photo op or for just a moment. And so I think there's a lot of great opportunity. There's a lot of great opportunity to do work. And one of the things I said last night, is instead of driving by and looking and shaking your head and going, oh my God, look at what these kids are doing. Stop, get out. How you doing? How's it going? I get the young guys all the time. They got the mean grill on their face. And I stop and I make a joke at my own expense. I'll say, oh my goodness, and I'll say something and they'll laugh. And I said, look at that smile. That's such a nice smile. I was like, what, do I have to be 25 and fly to get that smile from you? And they're like, oh my goodness, but you break the ice. You got to find one way to break the ice. And then once you break the ice, then you can have a conversation. And you have to start where people are. You can't go in and start saying, you got to stop this, you got to stop that, you got to stop. No, how are you? What's your name? You speak to them a few times. And that's one of the things, that we've always talked about, whether it was ceasefire or cure violence and now SNUG, is that you have to meet people where they are. And then as you build a relationship with them, then you start bringing them towards where you want them to be. The unfortunate thing is people become so anxious that they want to go and they want to preach and they want to tell, this is what you need to do and this is how you need to act, and pick up your pants and fix your hair and why you got gold fronts in. And I mean, we want them to do and become what we want them to do for us right away, but we haven't gained their respect. We always feel like these young people have to gain our respect. We have to gain their respect too, because I'm telling you, you can't tell me much unless I know you care. You can't correct me unless I know you care. And so we have to show them that we care first. And so I want to pull in Damon, and then we're going to pull in Jesse Van Loo. We're so glad to see you, Mr. Van Loo. Save Mount Vernon. And that's what we're attempting to do, sir. Save Mount Vernon. And so Damon, if you can come on in, our supervisor of SNUG for the state.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I agree a lot with you're saying, Sean, about really being able to meet them where they are, because a lot of times we want them to have all this self-esteem and self-respect and respect for others. But, you don't know how they're living, if they're homeless, if they're hungry, if they didn't sleep at, and if we're not asking those questions of how they're actually physically doing, then we're wasting our time talking about anything else with our young people. And I just think it's our job as older people to really not only, like you said, go out there and preach to them, but also be the example. Like it's, I always tell our guys in SNUG is your nights have to match up with your days. So you can't be you can't be in the day preaching one thing and then your night looks something totally different, because young people are not only listening to what you're saying, they're watching what you're doing. And if we aren't paying attention to what it is that we're doing all the time, and as people who want to say, you know what, I want to be the OG, or I want to be the guy to work with these young people, and so they're going to watch you and they're going to make sure that your actions are matching up with your words. And if your actions aren't matching up with your words, then no matter what you say to them, it doesn't matter. So I'm always really big with SNUG is, our job is to be the example. And that's to be the example all the time. Like we tell our guys all the time, you're on the clock 24/7, even when you're off, you're on. And it's not, it's not for the paycheck. It's actually, if you really want to change your community, you really have to know how to walk that walk and be that living example. Like it just doesn't stop when that clock stops. And as a community member, I'm not from Mount Vernon, but I've been working in Mount Vernon for the last 10 years. So I have really strong ties to Mount Vernon, and I really care about the city. I just feel like, as adults, if we want to help these kids, then we have to show them the example, because they're only doing what they saw us do ahead of them. And so when we look back at them and before we turn our nose up or scoff at them, we have to understand we're looking at a reflection. And if that reflection doesn't look right, then we need to look at the mirror and change what we see in that mirror as well. So, that's just kind of my, soapbox thing with it.
So before we pull in Jesse, David Gladman said mentoring is something that he wants to do. He wants to mentor people and young people in the culinary arts. And so once we get past this heavy COVID season and move into the COVID environment, the new normal, whatever we want to call it, he's someone who's interested in doing some mentoring through the culinary arts. And Guy is saying, this is an excellent idea. The neighborhood needs credible messengers, credible street generals out here that can relate to and mentor the young. We keep saying the young men, but the young women too. Because if us as women mentored the young women and taught them their worth, guess what? They're going to have a certain standard that the cats that they get with are going to have to live up to. And so a strong woman is going to help create a strong young man. But if our young women have no standards, no love for themselves, then they're just going to accept anybody doing anything, and they're going to be happy because, you know, I got a corner boy. But it's if we have standards, and if we're teaching our young women standards, then they're going to have a certain level of standard. And trust me, the guys will pay attention, because when a guy sees a young woman who they like and they respect and who has a certain level of a standard, they know that they got to come up a little bit to reach her. They got to come up and reach the standard that she's moving with. So Guy was talking about, we need people out here to mentor and have a recreation spot, bring back PAL. We may not have PAL, but we do have YCOP, you know, Youth Community Outreach Program. We do have recreation programs, youth bureau programs. We have kids who are at the Dole Center. So we don't need to open another building to have full of kids, but empty of adults. So there are a lot of, you know, there are all types of programs throughout this community that are happening every day. And because they may not have the same names that some of the programs that we grew up under have, does not mean that the relationships cannot still be the same. There are a lot of opportunities to mentor. Just because it may not come in a PAL structure doesn't mean that they can't be there. Henry, you're over at the Dole Center a lot, and you see probably more kids than you see adults, or if you see the adults, they're working out and kids are not with them. So we have to utilize the resources that we do have, and we have to find creative ways to volunteer. I would love to get a building and open PAL or a YMCA, but what are we going to do between now and when that happens? There's a lot that can be done. So Jesse Van Loo, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. If you can hear my voice loud and clear, but I got in late. But what I want to do, I put that post up today. I want to roll back this conversation because I missed a little bit. My thing is starts from home. You know, my thing is, where are the men in Mount Vernon? We have so many that are not showing up and not being there. Now, my thing as far as saying it starts from home, you have to address the situation if you have a problem in that household. There's a lot of youth, the young Black men out here in the streets that, from what I'm seeing, maybe didn't have that upbringing. That's right. So by me rolling that back, no more protests in front of City Hall. I want to get the boots on the ground, get as many men as I can, and women if they're joined. I'm going to talk to some of the clergy and get the men out of the churches and walk like we used to, and walk into these areas in a peaceable manner and talk to these young youth out here on the corners, ones that's rolling dice, drinking beer in the corner. Because right now I'm saying the police cannot do it all by themselves. We have to police the community ourselves. I'm retired, I'm volunteering, I gave you my services. I'm gonna do what I could do to bring the city back to like it can be. I have no choice. I'm not going away, I'm gonna be here like I told it. Also, I let Henry Terry know I'm going to join Snug. When he needs me, I'm gonna be there. 24/7, you need me, you can call me, I'll be there. So as far as addressing the kids on the corner, there's hot areas we can't go to. And they say strength is in numbers. If we walk upon them in a peaceful manner and talk to them, what are you missing in life? What didn't you have? You need a job, take my phone number. You have a problem in your household, we'll talk to you. So they'll have to lean on that gang member. They can lean on somebody that's gonna be there for them. As far as a message, that's a father figure, uncle, brother, sister. You have a lot of women I know too. Two reached out to me that can't even go in their son's room. That's a problem for me. You're an adult, you should be able to go anywhere in your house, not where your son tell you don't go in my room, and they're scared, terrified. So I'm also proposing and asking if you get a number, hotline number. They're not gonna talk to the police, but they'll talk to somebody, maybe one Snug or say, Mount Vernon, can you talk to my son? I'm willing to do that too as well. So things have to change. I know you're doing what you have to do. It's gonna be an uphill battle for us. As far as the murders, unsolved, we do that. They're handling it. Some people don't know that, Sean, you did put me on a transition team, and then people in the public don't know it is moving forward. There's things that's going on now they don't know about that's moving forward. Great things. Where the police at? Trust me, Glenn Scott is working on things from A to Z to the bottom. So once I can see hit you with the report and you talk about it. The public will be they'll know what's going on and things gonna move forward. I was asked not to talk about it. I'm just enlightening them a little bit that things are going in the right direction. It's gonna get better.
And when we created the transition committee for public safety, we wanted to make sure that we had people who were experts in the field because they worked in it professionally. But we wanted to also make sure that we had people who represented our community. And Jesse's not one who's going to change his voice or change his tune for anyone. And I wanted to make sure that we had that real, authentic, organic community voice at the table so that we don't get caught up in the academics, we don't get caught up in the politics of it, that we had somebody who was going to sit at the table. And I went to a training and someone said like this, sometimes it's best to put your worst critics at the table with you. They said, if someone says they don't like your cooking, bring them in the kitchen and have them help you cook that meal, because then they'll be a part of it. And so, you know, Jesse and I have worked together, we've talked together in the past, but I wanted to make sure that we had the true, authentic voice of the community at the table, because if he doesn't feel that he's being heard, he's going to get up and he's going to walk away. But he's been there, and your input has been very, very important, Jesse, and very valued, because we get caught up in the policies and the procedures and the process that sometimes if you're not careful in the midst of that, you will forget the people.
Yes.
And so we need to make sure that the people are always a part of the decisions that we made, because they're the end users and they're the ones who are going to be impacted. So we have to include them in the conversation. So thank you for always lifting up your voice. And most of all, I thank you for being an uncompromising voice.
Definitely. I appreciate that. One thing, I got some people within today, reaching out to me. I got 10 people today reached out to me for programs. Today wasn't a good day, and I asked them, I'll reach out to them tomorrow, the next day. That's going to be on the table. I'm going to probably talk to some people from the committee, transition. Gardner, I'm going to talk to again. Also, Henry Terry, I'm going to reach out to him. Darryl Murray, I think, left something for me too. All right, so people are reaching out today and let me know just their programs and things we could do within the community, cost saving. Some things don't have to charge. Most of the things won't charge. It's ideas. I won't lay them on the table now because, I don't want to do that. Our voice is starting to go out now.
Okay.
But I appreciate you bringing me on. I was a little late. I told you Jessica's birthday was today.
Yes.
So we had to just got
Happy
it.
birthday,
But
Jess.
yes. But everybody understand that it takes, you say, a village to run the community.
Mm-hmm.
I say no. I'm not going to say raise to run it, because as you're doing being the mayor, you have to do what you have to do. But we have to get involved. The community has to be involved now. Like I said, about me being on that transition team, I see what the job they do, what they can do. Their hands are not tied, but they can do so much. We have to input and put ourselves in this community to make it move forward. You see something, say something. Don't hesitate. You can't hold back and letting these things right here go around in the street.
Right.
So it's just going to move a little forward, and it's going to get better. I have 10 people friend me today too as well. Jesse, reach out to me, call me. I want to join you. We're going to walk together. No more protests, I said, in front of City Hall signs. We're not going to do rah-rah. We're going to walk when time is through with the coronavirus, hand in hand, arm and link, and we're going to walk around to the high areas and approach these young guys in a peaceful manner and talk to them. What are you missing? What do you need? What can I help you with? And most of them are going to tell you that they didn't get that love they thought they had when they was young. I was raised by a single mother, and she did what she had to do to raise me right. She left this earth when I was 15, but I'm saying she put her foot down. She had to. I didn't cross over. I wasn't that child. So we can do it and get back to some of these kids here so we don't lose them to the gangs and the violence. Because all it is, the black killing black, it's the young males shooting each other for nonsense. And it has to stop. So I'm going to put my voice out there to let you know. I'm reaching out to all my friends in Water Department, DBW. I got a lot of friends, and we're going to walk as one.
Oh, trust me, Quick and all of them are already, they hit me up. They was like, come on, sis, I'm here. We're ready to hit these streets. We're ready to get out here and talk to these kids. And everybody's not looking to do it in such a public way.
Yes.
But, they want to just connect and develop the relationships, because that's where it happens. And one of the things that young people want more than anything is they want respect and they want you to be honest.
Yep.
You know, sometimes we want to present the perfection of who we are, and we don't want to share the struggles that we've been through. Because the struggle, you know, we might be ashamed of our struggle or whatever it is, but young people just want us to be honest. And, you know, so whether I had learning disabilities, whether I cut classes in high school and flunked out of 10th grade
Yeah.
and had to go to summer school and had to take some classes. I mean, I'm mayor now, okay? But I spent like 3-4 periods in the courtyard, and they could relate to that. Instead of me sitting there making them think that they can't be me, I want you to know that there was one time that I might have been more like you than you ever realized. There was some
Right.
decisions and some crossroads that I had in my life that if somebody did not step up and speak truth, speak power, and speak life into me, I would have gone down a rabbit hole that I may have never, ever recovered from. And so that's why I don't have time to try and be plastic and be perfect. But if I see a young person who's struggling, I'm going to share my truth. I'm going to share the truth of my struggle, and then let them know that if I could do it, my God, you could do it. And you didn't have to necessarily be a gangbanger. We don't have to go all deep and try and qualify ourselves as to how we're able to help them, because we've been through everything. They don't care about that. They just want to know that you're able to admit sometime that you're not perfect. You've made some mistakes, and I may not have done all the dirt that you've done, but I can help you figure out if you should make a left or a right when you come to a hard decision.
Right.
So Teresa, come on back in here. I need you to speak to our women in the community and our young ladies in the community. What wisdom do you have?
Well, then I want you to share wisdom first. First, I'll say that you need a program also for the girls. I think the girls is the real major. I think the girls are more problem. I think because we see the violence, the end result, girls are just not killing each other. But the girls are dying, I think, faster than the boys are. The boys are just physically leaving. The girls are here, still physically dying. They're young moms. They're uneducated. They're in abusive relationships. They suffer from very, very low self-esteem. The girls, they fight a lot. The girls are more angry than I think the boys. I think the boys' problem is more like egotistical. I'm the tough guy, and that type of issue. But I think with the girls, I think Jesse will get more of a reaction of the girls when he's walking in the community saying, "What are you missing?" I think them young girls are going to start breaking down because these young girls don't have dads. Like I'm a daddy's girl, so like I knew better. So like if I knew better than what not to do, or didn't want someone to go back and tell I did something so bad like I was doing in the street. Like I was embarrassed for my dad to know that. They don't have that. These girls don't have that, and most of these girls first impression of love from a man is their boyfriend, who's probably violent. And then you got to think of it. It becomes a home issue because this is the mom, this young, low self-esteem, uneducated, unloved, broken woman, young girl. She eventually becomes a mom one day. And she raises these children who come outside and are angry because she's never had love, never got to deal with love, never been given love. How could she even raise someone in love to go outside and give off that love? No, because if a broken person raises another broken person, and I think the best way to start with that is like, school. Our teachers can tell us who's the the bad parents. You know what I'm saying? The kid that's always missing school, the kid that's always late, the kid that doesn't turn in homework. Stop just talking about it in your own, in the school, in the office, outside of work, among each other. Like really get involved and like be on the parent. Like, I mean, like what's going on with you? Like your kid. Because how long have you been working in the community? You've seen kids that were started off in kindergarten. And like, I know a lot of people, are you really surprised at some of the kids you saw die in the street? No, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like we be hurt because we're such a small community and we know each other and we love each other and we love either we're tight with someone in their family. We got so much closeness here, but like none of us really be like blown away, you know, because it's a lot that we could always did to step in, you know, and I think we just all need to start taking more responsibility. But I think the girls, your girls is a major, major problem more than the boys. The boys just get their hands on the guns and the boys are outside, you know, but we all know everything boys do, they do for girls. So,
Right.
you know, that's
Right.
just what it is, you know, but if you get the girls, you know, to get under control, the boys will follow because the girls end up becoming the wives and the girls become the mothers. The girls are the ones who's raising them. You understand? If you get the girls to hold themselves in higher standards, then the boys will want to become men. Because now they be like, oh no, the girls don't like nobody like us no more. Like, you know, the language can change in both aspects of the value. You know what I'm saying? Like, for both of them, like we just can't, you know, help the boys and figure out what this is coming from them because you know they got a mother at home that's probably going to find is broken. You know, is probably battling drug addiction, and drug addiction came from being abused, or drug addiction came from being living in poverty. I mean, you know, there's so many people that, you know, just walk around the city. We all want to always look like we're okay. Nobody never says, yeah, I'm having a bad day. You know, it's rare.
We wear that mask.
Yeah, everybody
wear
wears
that
the mask.
mask.
And everybody acts like, you know, life is great until something tragic happens. And then we got to see a mother break down when she's probably, like Jesse said, that's the horrible that kids are telling their mother, don't come in my room. Like, I mean, so if the mother has no control at home, my mother would have broke my neck. Like, I mean, I can't imagine. Like, it's like, if it's that far at home, then we got a lot of work to do with these kids. But I think we also need to start there with the girls. Jesse has an awesome idea with, you know, asking that simple question. Usually we're always interrogating kids, telling them where they're wrong. I don't think nobody really asks them a question. That really touched my heart when you said that. I don't remember nobody really ever asking me what was wrong with me. Why? If anything, it was like, Teresa, why are you bad? Or why are you always fighting? But, you know, because I was bad. You know, I ain't gonna lie. I got in a lot of trouble. You know, me and Drea, we was a gang. You know. Well, I'm gonna tell her. But you know, and I mean, and you know, like, not for nothing, we could do it. But and Debbie ain't just punch Drea; she punched you too. Like you ain't just gonna walk in the door and watch Drea get in trouble. Debbie gonna curse you out too and put you in your place and ask you, "Is you stupid?" You know what I'm saying? And then if she see your mother, she be like, let me tell you about these two fools. You know, like, and nobody does that no more. Parents now be like, not my child. What you yelling my child for? Like, nobody holds nobody accountable. Like, and I mean, I think that's, you're gonna really get rave reviews and a big part of the outcome. I hope y'all got enough tissue and enough people to give out hugs, because if Jesse's gonna really start asking those questions, then you'd be surprised. You're gonna be surprised how many kids start breaking down. I'm serious, and I know that for me working, being Dr. Z's secretary at Mandela. That's why those kids loved him so much. Every morning he'd be like, "What's wrong with you?" Yeah.
He loved them. He loved them.
Yes.
I'm gonna just break in here for a second. So we have Lerone Gentle. Shout out to Lerone. He said, violence in a broken community is like a pimple on your face. It pops up and irritates you. You find a solution and then it goes away for the moment, but it comes back to square one. Every community all over the world has the same problems. I'm considered an OG in this town, and I definitely try to reach out to the new generation every chance I get. This is Lerone. He said, I have a 23-year-old son that's in the streets, and he blames himself for the choices that he made in his life. If he could go back to the 80s and 90s and understood where he was coming from, then he would be able to say nobody is perfect. He says, now I'm a survivor. And he's a street general, and that's why he tries to embed into his head every day. And so, you know, he's saying, look, if I could go back and do some things all over again, and there's some choices that I could make differently, I would, because I look at how all of this has impacted my son who's out there now, and he's trying to snatch him back. Pastor Jeffrey Wheeler says, please let him know how we can engage our pastors and churches to serve our community better and not wait until a tragedy comes. And so, Pastor Wheeler, thank you so much for saying that, because as Teresa was talking about the mothers, you know, we see in the schools the mothers who are having a hard time with their kids, who are struggling, the ones who are always saying, no, not my kid, not my kid. And oftentimes these mothers and parents are defensive because they feel the weight and the burden that is too heavy for them to carry by themselves. They may not have all the answers. And so instead of confronting the fact that their child has a problem, they don't want people to judge them for their child having a problem. So they're not ready to deal with it. And we can't wait until this woman's child is killed. And then we come and we want to hug her. We want to come and say to her now, you know, look, so-and-so, you know, I know it has to be a problem. I used to have mothers come to the after school program at the Y. They'd come and pick up the kids. And we would say, well, so-and-so did this in the program and they did, you know, and then they'd go off. I mean, like a light, it would flick and they'd start going off and want to argue and want to scream. I was like, okay, hold on. Which we're not going to do is holler at my staff out here in front of these kids. Let's go in the office and have a conversation. Leave your kid out here. We go in the office and have a conversation. They're like, Miss Howard, I can't help them with their homework. I don't understand their homework. I didn't do really good in school and they're not listening and I'm not getting support and I'm trying to work 2 jobs. And then you start pulling back the layer of what comes off and presents itself as anger. And you start getting to the frustration, you start getting to the fear, you start getting to the hurt that a lot of these parents are dealing with themselves. And so we have adults that are fragile, that are trying to raise strong children, and that doesn't happen. So just like we have to be here for the kids as the mature women in the community, and if we'll be honest with ourselves, instead of judging that mother and looking at her sideways in the PTA meeting, or when we see the kid getting kicked out of school for like the 5th time, you know, in a marking period, then we need to approach and go, you know, sis, what's going on? Is there any way that I can help? And again, you have to do it in a way that's authentic and loving and stern at the same time. Not everyone is going to accept your help. And that's what happens when once one person rejects us, we like, I ain't helping nobody no more. I'm gonna go mind my business. I got enough stuff to deal with in my life. But then when a tragedy occurs, everyone wants to jump up and say what's happening. And you know, if we would spend less time on Facebook typing about what's happening, and we spent half the amount of time people spend on Facebook talking trash about what everyone needs to do, and you took some of that time and volunteered in the community, we could actually make a difference. And so just give me one more minute. Our police department is doing a very, very good job. You know, they're out there working and they're not going to be able to prevent a lot of what happens. The 3 of the murders that we dealt with so far this year all happened in the house. These were domestic incidents, whether it was family, whether it was roommates, whether it was friends. These things happened in the house. And oftentimes they happened in daylight. And so people have said, you need to put a curfew. You need to have the cops totally in these streets. You need to have this. But if we start over policing the community, and if every time you turn around, we got somebody up against a wall, or we got somebody bent over the hood of the car, the police cruiser, then they're going to say, oh my God, the police are out of control in Mount Vernon. And so, yes, the police have to do their job, but the community also has to step up, because there is no community that have ever arrested themselves and out of criminal behavior. You could arrest people, you could arrest people, you could arrest people, you could arrest them all you want. Somebody else is going to step up and take their place. If we do not deal with the root issues, and a lot of it is undereducation, lack of employment, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-respect, lack of role models, lack of mentors, lack of direction, lack of hope. How are we going to turn the tides on that? We can't throw everybody in jail. And then when they do come home from jail, if we don't have any other things for them to do, they're just going to go back to the same thing, and the cycle is going to begin over and over again. So what is going to be like the community-wide structure? How are we going to engage the schools, the churches, the business, the government, neighborhood associations, regular people? It's going to take a strategy where we're all getting involved, because if we're not involved, we're still impacted. So you might as well become involved. So I'm off my soapbox. I'm sorry.
I think accountability is the main thing here. Mount Vernon is you know, has the potential to be so powerful. You know, you being the first Black female mayor, but you know, most of the school district is, you know, Black. These kids get the advantage of seeing a lot of Black teachers. You know, we have a lot of Black firemen, a lot of Black police officers. You know, the community, the church, you know, most of the church, I don't think there's any really large other ethnic race of churches here, but the community is based upon people that look just like us. But then now the point is accountability. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, you don't want to over police, but sometimes it's hard to police the people that you grew up with. And we just want to be right there and be honest. You know, it's hard to supervise a kid and teach a kid and reprimand a kid if you grew up with his mother. You know, you don't treat him the same as you would treat the kid you don't know his family at all. You know, you'll give his mother a phone call and be like, listen, such and such ain't did his homework, whereas the other kid get in trouble, he going straight to the principal's office. We got to stop the nepotism and hold people accountable of our job and take integrity with the job that you chose. Like,
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter about friendship. It doesn't matter about family. It doesn't matter about any of that. Hold your job accountable for what you do. If you're a teacher, teach. If you're a cop, police. You know, it hold your, like, just, I think right there would stop so much, because then, you know, certain kids already know, like, he ain't gonna do nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? Security guards in the school. I mean, you cool with somebody, you'd be like, what are you gonna do to me? You know, whereas when I was younger, you seen something, we'd be like, oh God, he's running the other way. Because, you know, you saw Mr. Burst, you could run from him, he'll come to your house at 7 o'clock at night. You be dumbass. Like, oh man, you told him to come here. You know what I'm saying? He really took accountability of his job.
But
You know,
Teresa,
a lot of people don't do that.
you know what? And like you said, accountability, that's that self-accountability. And that's what's lacking, the self-accountability. You know what I'm saying? Like you saying, people showing other people favor over some different people. That's because they not holding themselves accountable first. You dig what I'm saying? Like, you took an oath and you made the mental decision to say, this is who I'm gonna be and this is what I'm gonna be. And I'm gonna be this because I want better for who's coming behind me. It shouldn't be no he get a pass and she don't get no pass, because now you're not holding yourself accountable by doing that to the kid. You understand what I'm saying? Because now the kids see the difference in how you treat him or her versus how you treat them over there. You understand what I'm saying? So now they lose a real large amount of respect for you as an individual. You dig what I'm saying? So your self-accountability got to be intact first before you try to hold anybody else accountable or try to set a rule or set a baseline for somebody else.
Well, if don't nobody pull your coattail, then sometimes some people don't even know. You know, I mean, listen, you know, I mean, Jesse, I appreciate that you don't have a problem with speaking your voice. You know, Jesse,
I'm going to keep
everybody should do that. And it's not about if he's trying to hurt somebody's feelings. It's like, if you really want to get something done, you can't get mad if I'm telling you you wrong, or we can do this way. You got to respect it. And it's like, nobody wants to be told that their idea we're not saying it's not right, and we're not saying it's not even a good idea. We just saying, okay, it might need a little more salt and pepper. You can't get mad at that if we're doing something, you know what I'm saying, as a community. This is not an individualized movement. You know what I'm saying? And that's there's a lot of people in the community needs to get out of their head. This is not individual.
That's right.
And I think you know, and I'm putting my social worker hat on. We have to look at mental health, right? Mental health is real, and we don't know how our community's mental health is. I mean, we've been through generational trauma, and you know, when you start talking about the mother has all these issues, but probably the grandmother had some of these issues, and we kind of pass this trauma down to our kids and these mental health things. You know, how many kids are walking around here depressed? How many of these kids are having all types of that are not diagnosed, and they're self-diagnosing with weed, pills, alcohol, and you're seeing some of that. So I mean, we have to really talk about and be okay to talk about mental health in our community, because that has been taboo in the African American community for so long. And I think we have to be able to talk about it and see it not as being a weakness, but seeing it as a strength. And that's one of those things we have to be able to reach out and ask those questions. I think I heard everybody say, ask kids, how are you doing today? What's going on? I'm having a bad day. I've had bad days. I've had depression. You have to be able to talk about that and be honest and be real, because until we address some of our mental health issues, we're still going to struggle with some of these things as well. So I think in our community, a lot of that stuff goes underlining, and we start blaming people for their trauma. And what you're seeing from a lot of our kids is their trauma response, and they're in that fight. They're in that fight, flight, or freeze. And our community's been that. And so when you start seeing that, people aren't thinking cognitively; they're acting. And when people are acting, we all know that when your emotions go up, your cognition kind of goes down. And so if your emotions are running high, you're not thinking, you're in survival mode. And so we have to be able to realize that, a lot of our kids and a lot of our adults are in survival mode because they're just trying to survive. And that's some mental health stuff. And we have to be able to address some of those mental health issues in our community without it being seen as weak or you're crazy or whatever the case might be, because those mental health issues are real in our community.
You're absolutely right. It's almost like nature versus nurture.
Right.
Let's
Totally.
show the mayor. Ask a question.
Huh?
What about getting a task force as now we speak? Summer's coming out. That bail reform is coming out. People getting out of jail from the corona, as well as the bail reform. And I suggest that right now you can, it's like the transition teams you had.
Put together a community task force on community
right
safety right now.
Because
Absolutely.
we got ideas that's coming through. Everybody take their pen and pad, write them ideas down, and we can move on them. The communication with the people in the community, the young adults, like I said, the way you address them has to be peaceful, but I'm always on the table. I'm going to approach them. I'm going to talk to them in the right way. And a lot of them just looking for conversation and looking for that attention, so they are acting out.
And people, you don't have to have a dark, sordid past in order to engage young people. I have a friend who never drank, smoked, did anything like that, was a church boy all of his life. But because he's willing to sit down and talk to young people, they accept him for his quirky self. I mean, they're like, oh, he's so corny. But the fact that he's there, they like him and they really enjoy it. So we're not saying that you had to have been a gangbanger or a drug dealer or anything. Young people just want to be accepted for who they are. There's a few other comments. Camille Clark says, everyone here knows that I didn't grow up in Mount Vernon school system. However, she's built her best friendships and loves Mount Vernon and wants to give back. So she said, T, you're definitely one of the many of them who've been there for her and that she loves you. We have Monica saying the cycle has to be broken, talking about our feelings and what's going on at home. A lot of us grew up and we were taught that what goes on in the house stays in the house. Therefore, no one is being honest about what's going on when they're asked. And this is really, really important. And I'm a social worker too. And so Damon talked about trauma-informed care. A lot of our young people have grown up with violence in the house. They've grown up with drug or alcohol addiction. They've grown up with some type of physical, emotional, mental, or sexual abuse. They are going out to school in the morning hungry. We have a lot of our young people, an increasing number of young people between the ages of 18 and 30 in our community are homeless. And so sometimes people are like, you got these kids hanging out here on the street. Well, they don't have anywhere to go back to. And we've been finding so many houses here. Mount Vernon has huge homes. And so many people have turned these homes into single room occupancies. And when you go in there, you're seeing a lot of our 21, 25-year-olds living in a 3-family house, and you can have 20-some young people living in that house. And so one of the shootings that happened the other day is somebody had turned it into a rooming house, and you have young people in there, not a lot of supervision, not a lot of direction. There's a beef, boom, boom, it pops off. And so, there are so many things that we have to close the gaps, around. But mental health and emotional health is so important. And we have a lot of churches, and one of the things that we need our churches to do, we could save people's souls, but if we don't deal with their mental and their emotional health, they're going to continually struggle. And as a social worker and as a minister, you know, some people say, how could you be both? Because one believes in medication and the other one is only like Jesus. But I'm like, no, no pastor, and I'll challenge any one of them that ever want to come with me. So don't come, because I'll straighten it out and regulate. You tell people not to take mental health medications and not to go for therapy. So I'm going to tell you now, if you believe God and you believe God is just going to take care of it all, stop taking all your high blood pressure medication, stop taking your diabetes medication, and stop going to see your medical doctor. Because we can't decide what things God is going to heal and deal with and what things we can go to the doctors. So many people in churches got high blood pressure and diabetes, but you go and you take your medication and you go and see your doctor. So if you have people in your church and family members that are dealing with trauma, that's not just for the altar. Oh, we gonna bring you to the altar, we gonna pray, you know, we don't believe in mental health and medication. So fine, if you don't believe in mental health medication and anything like that, then don't take your high blood pressure, don't take your high cholesterol medicine, and don't take your diabetes medicine, and see how long you're going to be preaching on that pulpit. Let Jesus heal that for you too. I mean, I'm just going to keep it a buck.
Definitely.
Because I mean, that's one of the things that we do. We have too much mental health, and oftentimes through our faith, we're told not to deal with it, and that's not positive. I just have to pull down to one of these comments, because Henry, this is for you. And I think it speaks to the power of the work that Snug is doing and the way you're reaching out. Cadillac Parker says, Henry Terry, you know me. My son was shot 9 times on 3 different occasions. I tried to go through the police and I got no help. I came to you at your church. We tried reaching out to some of the parents. They looked at me like the bartender and refused to talk to me about how our sons were trying to kill each other. So, you know, this is something that years and years ago, when at that time she was Detective Carpenter and Detective Anthony Mitchell working with the youth division, we pulled together the kids who were shooting at each other. And sometimes it was like the parents almost had more beef than the kids, and the parents didn't want to really deal with what was going on. And the only time they want to deal with it is when it's time for their child to be buried, or when it's time for their child to stand up in a courtroom. Parents, we got to be honest. We got to be willing to have the conversations. And if you can't have the conversation, then let someone like Snug, let someone like Jesse, let someone like Teresa, or whoever in your community has credibility, sit down and have those conversations. We can't ignore it, because whatever we ignore is eventually going to come back to bite us later.
That's a fact. And like she said, you know, sometimes like Teresa was saying too, like the parents just being in a situation where they started out broken, they're passing down those broken traits, those incomplete traits, those incomplete teachings, those partial upbringings. They're passing it down to their children, and it's even more broken down and more partial than it was when they got it. And when there's a situation between two, say, like she said, 2 families, and one family says, what do we do to fix this? And the other family don't want to talk, or saying, no, we're going to handle things the way we handle things, right? It doesn't really leave a lot of room for mediation or repair, because there has to be 2 willing parties for the repair to begin, or for the men to take place. And it's the lack of the education, and the lack of love, and the lack of upbringing, so to speak, from the gate, that forces those things to the table. So, you know, being able to treat those years of trauma and generations of trauma is definitely key in us being successful to bringing resolve to the problems that we have within our community. You know what I mean? Like Teresa said, how can a person who doesn't come from a place of love automatically know how to give love, or know how to teach love, or you know what I mean? Even know what that looks like. They can't.
So we were told to identify young leaders and include them in the planning. And so we definitely have some of our young people who've been reaching out. And we did that a few years ago when Junior was killed. When Junior was killed back in 2016, it was the young people in the community that was so devastated that came together. And there were over 40 artists that created the Foursquare Peace Project. And they did a whole album about peace in the community. And so we need to make sure that our young people are at the table. We don't need to just talk about them, but we need to include them in the conversation, as well as whatever plans we have and how we move forward. And we don't have to wait until they're rehabilitated. You pull some of them who are active right now and frustrated, because a lot of them have some incredible ideas and a lot of passion, and they just want to be seen and they want to be heard and they want to be respected and included. And so we are pretty much at the end of our show. Donna Jackson said, can we get mental health first aid training in the community? I know Sergeant Carpenter, she's retired. She's mental health first aid certified. And that is a really, really good program. Just like you have CPR and first aid, you have mental health first aid training. And so that's something that we want to look at. I believe Snug, y'all went through the mental health first aid training?
Yes, our team took that training, yes.
And so that's important, you know, and even in the midst of coronavirus and COVID or whatever this looks like, that might be something that we can offer on an online interactive platform, because we can't just wait until COVID goes away to come up with different strategies, because in the middle of a pandemic, people are being killed. And so in the middle of a pandemic that we don't know when is going to end, we have to be willing to create resources. Officer Artie Robinson, who we've known forever and for decades, has been working in the school system. He said we need programs for the kids, give them something else to do other than hang on the streets. And so we're going to just ask everyone, and we agree with that, Officer Robinson. I'm excited about our Commissioner Scott. He is a person who is very much about community policing. You know, he didn't get a chance to really get his feet wet before COVID happened. And I believe that, you know, once this starts to clear up and we're able, all of us as a community, able to regroup, we're going to allow people to understand truly why we are the jewel of Westchester. Like I said, we are coal that's been pressed and we've struggled, but it's our time to shine. And we've had a lot of challenges and we have some deficits, but we have a lot of assets. And it's time to let those assets lead forward, because you guys are all superstars, you know, in your own right. And I know that once we just let y'all go and do it, you're going to kill it. So, I mean, I'm sorry, that not kill it in a bad way, kill it in a good way. Insofar as kill the drama, we're going to kill the drama. So we're going to ask everyone, we're going to start with Teresa. If you could just give your closing thoughts as we close out this segment of our discussion today. And this is not where it's going to stop. We're going to continue this conversation.
I think this was a great platform tonight. I really enjoyed the conversation. I think everyone has great input. I think that this was very positive. I salute each and every one of you for the things that you are doing. I thank you, Mayor, for inviting me and to let my voice be heard tonight. And I look forward to working with each and every one of you guys.
Thank you. Jesse?
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor, for letting me participate in this evening event. And Henry and the other man I talked about, my voice is going down, so I'm not going to talk too long. The community should not wait until it's their child. Hopped on that. You know, I started unsolved murders, and we don't want to use that term no more. Let's just get together. I'm trying not to even use that term, but what we have to do is work from the streets and bring it up to the top. I'm going to ask and call out to reach out to most of the men here that I know, as well as talk to Snug Henry. I will be talking to you. And anybody else who want to contact me, go to jessevanloo@gmail.com. Any ideas or programs that you want to help me move forward? Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot out there. There's some brothers out there I know that want to participate but didn't know how. I'm asking you all to reach out to me so we can help the community move better. And like I said, the police can only do what they can do. Community has to evolve and move forward. You know, they're doing their job. We have to do ours now. I don't want nobody to have to go through what we just went through. Like I said, you only care when it's your child, and it should be like that. I'm retired. My kid's in school. One is working. So why am I doing this? I could sit home and watch TV all day, but I want to get back to the community. I'm tired of seeing these young kids killing each other. So it affects me. It hurts me. And I just hope most of the men in Mount Vernon feel the way I do and come and stand up. And stand up and be somebody and be a word. Be a mouth, be a voice. Thank you for letting me participate and speak. And I hope we can get together again, and hope Sean, the mayor, moves the platform together so we can put ideas on the paper. And then when it's weather and Corona break, just let's go hard, hard. Thank you.
Guess what? We're going to use the Zoom platform also until we can get together, because, you know, we don't have to air it on Facebook, but people are conducting business through Zoom meetings all the time. So we don't have to wait for Corona to break. We can get 100 people into a Zoom meeting easily and have these conversations. So that's something that we're going to do.
Thank you.
Catherine Showalter from Moms Demand Action just wanted us to know that Moms Demand Action is here, and that they're willing to support and have boots on the ground. And I'm gonna say something, because people have asked, it's like, where do all these white women have, you know, coming in our community? I'm not gonna be mad at the white women who are here to come into our community, because they'll walk some of the neighborhoods and the streets and talk to some of the young people who we turn our noses down every day at. So I'm not mad at moms, because wherever there's been rallies and wherever there's been shootings and problems, these people, these women have showed up. And they're not even necessarily from Mount Vernon, but they've showed up and they're willing to walk the streets. And so you don't have to be Black, you don't have to be from Mount Vernon, you don't have to have been someone who was in the streets. If you want to help, if you want to be a part of the solution, then you are more than welcome. So thank you always, Moms Demand Action, for being a great partner. And Henry, your closing thoughts? We got to unmute Henry. Malcolm, unmute Henry. Oh, there you go.
My closing thoughts are just to say thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you to everyone else that was a part of the platform. And just for everybody to know and understand that Corona's not the only pandemic. At the rate at which we're losing our young Black men is a pandemic. I have 6 children that I'm still raising in this community that are going to the same schools that I attended as a child, and learning a way of life in the same community that I learned my way of life in. And I want it to be better for them. And I want it to be a place where they can be some of those success stories, but not just my children. When I say my children, I don't mean the children that came from my loin. I mean every child in Mount Vernon. They all deserve the same shot, and they all deserve the same opportunities as our neighboring communities. So we have to see the level of violence in our community as a pandemic, and take it just as serious as you're taking this COVID-19. Thank you.
And Damon, thank you, Henry.
Thank you. I want to thank you, Sean, for having us on. Madam Mayor, I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse. I've been out to a shoot response when you got on the mic, so I've heard you preach at the shoot response. Teresa, I haven't had a chance to work with you, but I look forward to working with you. And Henry, you know, you're my guy. You know, we talk every day about what's going on out here. So, you know, I always appreciate what you're doing. I guess so. I just really want to leave everybody with some hope, you know, because sometimes when we're hearing about these violence, or we have a month like we had where all these murders happen, it could seem overwhelming for a community. But if you really look at like the data, you know, we're talking about 2% of the population is causing 65 to 70% of the violence. So, I mean, the other 98% of the population wants to live happily and safe. And I think if we really realize how much strength that we have in numbers, that is really the majority of us that want to live the correct way, I think that could really change the dynamic of how we approach things, because I think we think the majority is out here committing crimes and shootings and things, and it's a small minority of the population. And so I think when we start changing the norm of how our population sees it, and we're not letting a small percentage hold us hostage, and not in a bad way, because they are part of the community, right? Sometimes we kind of get that thought of it's us versus them, and it's not. It's a we thing. We're all in this together, and it's just a small percent of our population that says, you know, something's wrong and they're crying out for help. And if we see it in that way, you know, we're able to reach out, and we're not building these walls. We're actually building bridges, and I think that's what we do when it's time of crisis, is build those bridges and not build walls to keep them out the community. And I'll leave it at that.
So everyone, thank you so much. This is our community. These are our streets. These are our children. And this is going to be our assignment. We can come together and make a difference. And I'm going to close this out by saying, sharing my favorite African proverb, and that's when spider webs unite, we can tie up a lion. Individually, we oftentimes feel insufficient, but when we come together collectively, with our collective energy, strengths, resources, and even our frustrations. Because if it's your frustration that propels you, you're still going to show up for the party and you're going to still make it happen. So even if you're frustrated, we want you to come out. Those are the ones we want to come out, because we want you to turn that frustration into solutions and into positive results. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Mount Vernon, I know that together we can do this. There is no other community like our community. We are so close. We are so close. And that's why all of this hurts so much. So let's come together. Let's make it happen. And thank you each for coming on and being a part of this tonight. And let's move it forward. Everyone take care and have a blessed night.
Have a good night.
Well.
Be well.